So we told you about Katie Couric's breast cancer diagnosis earlier this week. This brings to light a bigger issue because of the pandemic: women putting off their annual mammogram. Couric was 6 months late for her mammogram and said she shudders to think what might have happened if she had put it off any longer. And Couric is not the only woman to have put off their annual screenings. I'm one. During the pandemic, screenings were shut down for months, but doctors say many people who should have been screened delayed it by 2 years. Joining me now is our 9 News health expert, Dr. Payal Kohli. I was just telling you, I'm in this situation, not mammograms because I'm not 40 yet, but I have delayed all of my screening. It's terrible.
It's terrible, Corey, and there's millions of Americans that are in the same boat. And what the data is telling us is actually we're now picking up more late-stage cancers than early-stage ones, which of course, has a huge impact on the prognosis and the curability. Now, thankfully for Katie Couric, hers was still early stage. But if she had put it off any longer, who knows, it could have spread.
Because we always talk about early detection is key.
Early detection is a cure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, so signs and symptoms of breast cancer.
So we as women, I think, really need to be attuned because this is the most common cancer in women. So first thing you might notice is a lump or a bump, but not just in the breast. You might actually also notice it in the armpit because our breast tissue extends all the way to the armpit. And we have lymph nodes there that also sort of drain our breast that you could feel a lump or bump in. Now, women's breasts can get lumpy and bumpy from other things as well, but if there's a new lump, it needs to be checked out. The other things you might notice is breast pain or breast tenderness. You might notice a nipple discharge, particularly if it's a bloody discharge. That should obviously be very concerning.
Yes.
If you notice any change in the external surface of the breast, the way that it looks, any dimpling of the skin, even a rash on the breast that looks like a scaly sort of a rash can be a type of a breast cancer.
That's why these self-exams are so important, because then you'll know what's normal for you. So how do people do that at home in between? You still got to get your exams and your screenings, but in between you should also be an advocate for yourself.
For sure, because you only get the mammograms once a year. But once every month, we as women should be checking our breasts, usually about a week after the first day of our period. If we're still menstruating, if we're postmenopausal, you can check it at any time. The shower is a good place where I like to do it. And essentially what you want to do is really think of the breast like a clock, and you want to divide it into 4 quadrants. And in each quadrant, you want to go in and out like spokes of a wheel, all the way up to the armpit, all the way to the side of the chest wall. And then at the very end, you also want to, feel the armpit itself and squeeze the nipple, make sure there's no discharge.
Yeah, and you know yourself. So if something's off, definitely make the call, go in and get checked out. And this isn't just for women.
No, it's not. And that's something we don't talk about often. But 1 out of 100 breast cancers can be found in men. In fact, a close friend of mine in residency, he was a surgeon, he started having some arm pain and he thought it was from doing surgery all day long. And he actually had breast cancer.
Wow.
And male breast cancer, of course, more rare, travels more in families. But if you are concerned or have risk factors as a man, it's certainly something to think about.
How often should women get mammograms?
So the recommendations say for the average risk woman, such as yourself, 40. So 40 is kind of when we start. But I would say that that's a little bit of a shifting target, particularly if you might have risk factors. So if you've had a family member that's had an early onset breast cancer, if you have other risk factors, particularly BRCAs, that genetic risk factor, but even some of your hormonal risk factors, like starting your period early, or getting hormones for a long period in your life, never breastfeeding, those are additional risk factors. You may have to start potentially even earlier than that.
The big message is here: self-check yourself, know your body, and don't delay exams and screenings.
And is that message getting through to you as well?
It is. I told you. I realized that it had been 2 years. I made my appointment on Monday, so I'm going in next week.
Excellent.
And everyone has to kind of get back on track. I know the pandemic threw everything off, but now you got to own your health.
That's right. And October is the month, the Breast Cancer Awareness Month, so let's all as women make it happen.
Absolutely. Dr. Kohli, great topic. I'm so glad that you came in to talk about it. Thank you.